Remember when we talked about how you can change the pathways in your brain? Because of neuroplasticity, you are able to determine what paths get grooves in your brain and what paths get less of a groove and kind of disappear. One of the powerful resources that we have in doing this and changing some of the pathways in our brain is gratitude, is focusing on what is good, focusing on what we have rather than what we don't have. Gratitude is a powerful resource that helps us to change our perspective and shift our mood and to remember that everything isn't horrible and it's not always this way and it's not never going to change, right? So we have gratitude as a resource for that. And gratitude is another thing that is a habit. It's something that we have to practice. It's something that we have to intentionally do because our minds, because our nervous systems are geared towards survival, our brain and our body, our nervous system will automatically try to protect us. So it's automatically, remember, we have that negative bias. It's automatically going to go towards the negative. Gratitude is one of those things that helps us pull it out of that ditch, out of that pit. Monday was a difficult day for me. We could not get the dishes to get clean in the dishwasher. Something's wrong with it. And it was frustrating for everyone involved because my girls are responsible for doing the dishes. My son had an incident happen at his workplace and ended up quitting his job on Monday. Then I talked to my husband. He had some work drama going on, some things going on at his workplace that actually affect our entire family. So that was kind of on my mind. And then I was totally exhausted because the night before I had not slept well. Everything just seemed to be going downhill very quickly. And when you get into that mode where it's just like you start to just think of all the things that are bad, all the things that are negative, it starts to become overwhelming. Like, well, this, and then, some reason, anything bad that happens in our life tends to spiral into everything is bad. I was so tempted to wallow in that negativity. But I got a text from a friend, and my friend's daughter, who is only 21 years old, is fighting cancer right now. And as I was talking with her and texting back and forth with her, I caught myself. I was wallowing, I was spiraling when I had so much to be grateful for and so many things to be grateful for. Not only that, I was wasting precious time on earth wallowing in these things when I could be focusing on the good. And we've talked about we get more of what we focus on. So I was getting more bad because I was focused on the bad. But if I could shift my focus over to the good, I would begin to get more good. And so once I got finished with that text string, I just started to really remind myself of all the ways that I was so blessed and just so thankful for the things that I have, for the health of my people, and for the time that I get to spend with them, extra time with my son, because now he's looking for a new job. And, just all of the things, we can wash dishes by hand. That's not going to kill us. So, it just really shifted my perspective and changed my whole mood and really my whole day. And if you do that on a regular basis, if you have days on a regular basis where you are adjusting into gratitude, where you are shifting your perspective into gratitude, think of how many days you save, how many months you save yourself of wasting time, being overwhelmed and burdened and wallowing. Now, I want to make sure that I am very clear that this isn't a comparison thing. This isn't saying, well, such and such has it worse, so worse than me, so I really shouldn't be upset about these things. The reality is bad things happen in our lives. They are hard and we can hate them. We can hate it that something bad happened to us. We just can't cling to that bad. Instead, we have to shift and cling to the good. The good is what's going to help us to not only survive, but thrive through stressful situations and begin to look at it in a better, more effective way to, to look at these things that we're facing in life and to really not let them overcome us. We can overcome them when we focus on good. So I just want to make sure that we don't basically, gaslight ourselves because we are having a hard day or going through hard things. Yes, some things are hard. Reality is hard many times. And sometimes it's just, we've already talked about just sitting in that grief and crying. But when we start to spiral and when we start to wallow and when we start to let bitterness and, criticalness and all these things take over our hearts, we're not moving forward in life. We're either stuck or we're moving backward, and we aren't developing and growing in the way that we really want to be able to do that. And we're not finding those things like the joy and the peace and the goodness in our life. And so we're giving those up when we spiral and when we wallow and when we stay and cling to the bad instead of shifting to the good. So my kids have been through different seasons in their life where they would start to spiral or wallow. And one thing that I found very helpful for them is when they would get into these modes and we'd have conversations, I would stop them and I'd say, okay, I just want you to name 5 good things. Just name 5 good things right now about your life, about what's going on around you, about the circumstances. They don't necessarily have to be about that specific circumstance because maybe there isn't anything good about that circumstance. Even though eventually, I think sometimes when we get past circumstances and we're able to look back on them, we realize there was more good than we thought there was. And so I tell my kids, name 5 good things. And a lot of times when they sit and they think and they start to try to name those 5 things, even if they can't get to 5, you see a shift in their perspective and a shift in their mood. And so I would fully recommend some type of practice like that, gratitude practice, either adding it to your morning routine or adding it to your evening routine, however you can fit it into your day. There are many ways to remind ourselves to be grateful. Making a list of all the things we're grateful for and keeping that on hand, putting some things up in your home or in your office or wherever you spend the majority of your time to remind you of the good, to remind you of the fact that, there are good things in your life and there are things that can, shift your perspective, just getting your perspective to shift. One thing that I do, I have a journal, and we'll talk about journaling in the next lesson, but I have a journal specifically dedicated to just writing out things where I feel like the Lord has just really intervened in my life and either, spoken or given me something good to hang on to or, shown up with good gifts when I'm in the midst of something hard. And I found that with that journal, I can go back anytime I need to, anytime I'm facing something difficult, some kind of circumstance, I can pull out that journal and I can start to read these things and just remember that the faithfulness that God has been with me all along and has delivered me out of all kinds of things, but delivered me. He has sat with me through those circumstances and walked with me through them and helped me, directed me, and showed me, the next step, the way to go. So when I get stuck in those places where I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen, and this is really makes me really anxious or really unsure, I can go back to those solid things that have already happened in the past. And this is a time when it's a good thing to think on the past. Or to anticipate the future as far as I know that in the end, this is going to work for good. And I trust that that's going to happen. Not spiraling into me trying to figure out what's going to happen or how it's going to happen or figure out what I should have done or what should have happened. But just trusting and finding the good and looking for the good. So this is just one thing that has helped with as far as gratitude, and that kind of plays into journaling. But you can add gratitude into your daily routine, however whatever helps you, whatever shifts your focus.